World War II was the deadliest and biggest war in human history. It lasted from 1939 to 1945 and involved more than 60 countries. Tens of millions of people died, and the war changed the world's politics, economies, and societies forever. The game Medal of Honor Allied Assault is set during a part of this war from 1942 to 1944 and follows the Allied forces as they fought against Nazi Germany in North Africa and Europe. Although the game's story is made up, most of its missions are based on real battles, missions, and military plans from that time. The first missions showed fighting in North Africa, which started in 1940 but became much bigger in 1942 with something called Operation Torch. This was the first big Allied invasion by sea during the war. On November 8, 1942, American and British soldiers landed in part of French-controlled North Africa like Casablanca, Oran, and Algiers. The goal was to take control of the area, cut off supplies going to the Axis powers, and get ready for a future attack on southern Europe. North Africa was very important because it connected the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, and controlling places like the Suez Canal and oil fields in the Middle East was crucial. In towns such as Arzo and Algiers, the Allies fought not only German and Italian soldiers but also French forces loyal to the Vichy governments. The fighting was tough, often in hot, dry desert conditions, but by May 1943, the Allies had successfully pushed Axis forces out of North Africa. After winning in North Africa, the Allies moved on to invade Sicily and then mainland Italy, but soon their focus turned to France, where they started planning a huge invasion of Western Europe, which was occupied by Germany. Before that invasion, Allied soldiers carried out many secret missions across Europe. They worked to damage German railways, bridges, weapons, factories, and helped local resistance fighters who were working to fight the Nazis from inside. These dangerous missions were often done by groups like the OSS, Office of Strategic Services from America, and the British SOE, Special Operations Executive. These agents were sent behind enemy lines to cause as much trouble as possible for the Germans. One of the big dangers the Allies faced was the German V2 rocket program. The V2 was the world's first long-range missile that could be aimed at targets hundreds of kilometers away and traveled faster than sound. It was developed by a German scientist named Werner von Braun and used by the Nazis to bomb cities like London and Antwerp. The rocket killed many civilians and was impossible to stop once it was launched. To stop the V2 rockets, the Allies bombed their production plants, testing grounds, and launch sites. Missions like Operation Crossbow and Hydra attacked places such as Peenemünde, it's a German city where the rockets were built. These attacks needed very good intelligence, often gathered by resistance fighters, risking their lives inside occupied countries. Destroying these sites was important to reduce the threat of the rockets. Okay, another serious threat came from German U-boats, which were submarines that attacked Allied supply ships in the Atlantic Ocean. This battle, called the Battle of the Atlantic, was vital because Britain needed supplies like food, weapons, and fuel to keep fighting and prepare for the invasion of Europe. The Germans had built big U-boat bases along the French coast in places like Lorient, Brest, Saint-Nazaire, and La Rochelle. These bases were heavily protected with thick concrete, so planes couldn't destroy the submarines inside. The Allies did try to bomb these bases, but they were hard to destroy, so special forces and resistance fighters often carried out sabotage missions to blow up fuel tanks, torpedoes, or communications equipment from within. These secret missions were very dangerous but crucial to weakening the German submarine threat. But by mid-1944, everything was ready for the biggest sea invasion ever. The Normandy landings, also called D-Day, on June 6, 1944, more than 156,000 Allied soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy, northern France. The soldiers came from the United States, Britain, Canada, and other countries. The invasion was divided into 5 beach areas: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. Omaha Beach, where American soldiers landed, was one of the most heavily defended. The Germans had bunkers, artillery guns, machine guns, and placed mines, tank traps, and barbed wire on the beach to stop the attackers. The battle there was fierce and deadly. Many landing boats were destroyed before reaching the shore, and many soldiers died in the water or on the sand while trying to move forward. Despite these heavy losses, the American troops fought on, secured the beach, and opened the way for the Allies to push deeper into France. The success of D-Day was a turning point in World War II. After the beaches were secured, the Allies started freeing towns and cities across France. Paris was freed in August 1944, and the push toward Germany began. At the same time, resistance groups inside France rose up to help the advancing Allied armies. These fighters had spent years risking their lives by sabotaging railways, cutting communication lines, and passing secret information to the Allies. Their bravery helped slow down German reinforcements and made it easier for the Allies to move forward. It's important to remember that these events were not just about battle plans and strategies, they were about people, ordinary civilians caught in the middle of war, soldiers who gave their lives far from home, and resistance fighters who faced torture or death if caught. World War II wasn't just armies fighting, it was a struggle for survival, freedom, and the future of the world. The cruelty of Nazi rule, the horrors of concentration camps, and the destruction of entire cities left deep wounds that people still feel today. The Allied war effort was enormous. It involved fighting on land, sea, and air. It needed not only soldiers but also scientists, engineers, code breakers, and factory workers back home. Women played a huge role by working in factories, making weapons, serving as nurses, and joining resistance movements. The war was fought all over the world, in the Pacific, North Africa, Russia, and Europe, but the fighting from North Africa to Normandy was some of the most important and dramatic moments of the war. When games like Medal of Honor, Allied Assault show these events, they do more than entertain. They help new generations learn about the war. Even though the gameplay is made up, the events are real. They remind us of the courage, pain, and sacrifices of millions of people. Playing as a soldier landing on Omaha Beach or or sneaking into a German base can leave a strong impression. It can make players curious to learn more and feel connected to history. Understanding the real history behind these missions helps us see how hard, complicated, and costly World War II really was. The people who lived through it faced fear, destruction, and uncertainty every day. Many were younger than most of us are now. They didn't want war, but when it came, they met it with courage, unity, and hope. Remembering their stories, even through video games, is a small way to honor their memory. Thank you for listening.